By the time I made it upstairs, the plates were already waiting. Toast, eggs over easy, a careful streak of hot sauce at the side, the same ritual she used back when I was dragging myself to welding practice before sunrise in high school. For a flicker of a moment, I almost convinced myself it meant something. Just 2 days, I said, sliding into the chair opposite her. A maintenance contract at the mill in Blackridge. Then Monday, the new job starts. She stirred her coffee like she was circling some unspoken thought, eyes fixed on the phone lying beside her. That's nice, Elizabeth. The tone was automatic, a hollow echo of conversation. It's not Marston steel, I went on, forcing a smile she didn't see, but it's steady. Benefits. I'll finally be able to pay off the last of what I owe you. Her answer was nothing more than a faint hum. She typed something quickly, the screen tilting just enough to block my view. I kept my attention on my eggs, telling myself not to push. She'd let me stay. She didn't have to. When I stood to rinse my plate, she finally lifted her gaze. Drive safe. I will. Her kiss grazed my cheek like a social obligation. The side hug was quick, mechanical, as though we were performing for an audience that wasn't there. By the time I'd stepped toward the door, she was already scrolling again. Outside, the morning light carved the street into long, thin shadows. My duffel clanked with welding tools as I set it in the trunk, sealing the hope that this was the first step away from the years I'd been stuck. I didn't mean to look back, but as the car rolled from the driveway, I caught the faintest twitch of the curtain upstairs. Just enough to know someone was watching. It was 6:32 when I turned back onto West Brannan Street, hours ahead of schedule. The work had wrapped faster than expected, and I was ready to collapse into sleep. The smell of hot steel and scorched rubber clung to my hands, the only familiar thing left. But then I saw them. A row of black garbage bags, dozens of them, stretched along the edge of the lawn. A few had split, spilling socks, sweaters, notebooks into the brittle grass. My duffel sat upright like it had been thrown and landed wrong. My gaming monitor leaned bare and crooked against the mailbox, a trophy stripped of its case. And there was my mother, phone in hand, posture composed like she was about to film a cooking tutorial. Next to her, Noelle stood in the sun, holding her phone out, narrating for her audience. And here she is, fresh from another so-called business trip, still 8,000 in debt. This, my friends, is entitlement in action. Griffin prowled nearby, restless. When he spotted me, his mouth curled into a smirk. He strode to one of the bags and kicked it so hard my books fanned out into the dirt. About time, he muttered. The basement leech is finally out. I opened my mouth, but no sound came. My mother raised her phone higher, her voice smooth, rehearsed. Elizabeth, 29, living in my basement like a parasite. This is your eviction. Public. Permanent. Neighbors lingered, pretending not to stare but staying rooted, Mrs. William holding her dog's leash in both hands, expression carved in stone. Mr. Richard crouched behind his hedge, camera steady. I bent to pick up a hardcover lying in the dirt. Its spine was bent, I straightened it with care and set it aside before moving to the next thing. No tears. No raised voice. Just the slow, deliberate work of loading my life into the trunk, piece by piece, while Noelle's commentary dripped behind me. When I was done, I closed the trunk softly, turned back to face them. Still filming. Still smirking. Enjoy the show, I said, calm as glass. You'll hear from me soon. I'd barely closed the car door before the porch door slammed open. My father stormed down the steps, face red, jaw locked, and without a word, hurled a set of keys at me. The keys hit my cheekbone with a dull, metallic smack before skittering into the gravel. Take your junk and go, my father growled. You're no daughter of mine. Real adults don't cling to their parents like leeches. I rubbed the spot where the metal struck, crouched, and picked them up, slowly, deliberately. Not a single twitch or wince for him to feed on. He stood there, arms locked across his chest, waiting for a scene, tears, shouting, anything to prove him right. Noelle adjusted her phone for a cleaner shot. Griffin prowled the porch like a hyena, his grin already carved in victory. I opened the car door, slid in, and shut it with a muted click that seemed to make the silence heavier. Before turning the ignition, I met each gaze in turn. My mother, draped in a mask of bored detachment. Noelle, her eyes glinting with performative disdain. Griffin, vibrating with the kind of cruelty that passes for confidence in small men. And then my father, his stare locked on mine until, just for an instant, something flickered there. Unease, maybe. I turned the key and rolled away at a crawl, never giving them the satisfaction of seeing my back tense or my head turn. For a while I just drove, letting the streets smear into a gray ribbon. At some point, I ended up in the grocery store parking lot, engine idling, headlights dark. My hand stayed fixed at 10 and 2, the hum of the motor matching the low roar in my head. That's when I remembered the envelope. It had been wedged at the bottom of my filing bin for over a year, heavy paper, no return address, my name in my grandfather's steady, unmistakable script. He'd handed it to me in the hospital, weeks before the end. Don't open it unless things turn bad, he'd said. Tonight, everything in me agreed, it was time. When I reached Elena's apartment, her porch light was still on. I dropped my bag just inside the door, fished the envelope from its hiding place, and laid it across my knees. Lena appeared with 2 steaming mugs, set one beside me, and slipped into her room without a word. She never pressed. I stared at the flap until I was sure my hands were steady, then tore it open. Inside were a folded letter, several notarized documents, and a business card from a downtown law firm. The letter was short, the handwriting slanting slightly as though written in a hurry. Elizabeth, if you're reading this, they've done what I feared. I couldn't shield you in life, so I'm protecting you now. You own a share of the house, the lake cabin, and the shop building. It's all legal. You owe them nothing, no apology, no silence, no guilt. This is for the day they forget your worth. Grandpa. The words didn't bring tears. They brought focus. Sharp, cold focus. The trust papers confirmed it, 40% of the family home, half of the cabin on Lake Rourke in Cass County, and 35% of the Riverdale Street building where my father's business operated. The law firm's card read, David, Estate and Property Law. By sunrise, I was on the phone with his office. The receptionist hesitated until I mentioned my grandfather's name, then she slid me into a last-minute appointment that afternoon. The office sat in an old stone building near the university, filled with dark wood and the slow tick of a brass clock. Law books lined the walls like sentinels. I remember you, Mr. Dorsey said as he shook my hand. You used to come with your grandfather. Always had that red sketchbook. I said nothing, letting him leaf through the documents with a precision that spoke of decades in the trade. When he looked up, his gaze was steady. It's airtight, he said. The trust was finalized before his death. They can't cut you out, can't sell without your signature, and if they've been pulling rent or loans on these properties, well, their problems might be bigger than yours. I leaned back, my pulse settling into something deliberate. Then let's start. That night, the first text came. Noelle, 8:47 p.m. Hey, hope you're not upset. The stream wasn't about embarrassing you, it's just content. You know how the algorithm works. That was Noelle's opening volley, sent like it excused everything. I didn't respond. By morning, my phone looked like a siege engine had been unleashed, 12 more texts, 2 missed calls from my mother, and a voicemail from Griffin. You're overreacting. It wasn't even that big a deal. You know how she is. Just come back, be an adult about it. I forwarded the whole mess to Dorsey without a word. A few hours later, my father's name lit up my screen. 1:14 p.m. We need you to sign a few documents. No fuss. Just paperwork. No greeting. No reason. Just an order, as if I were an underperforming employee. Dorsey stepped in. His email was short, formal, final, all communication to go through his office from now on, copied to their lawyer for good measure. I shut off read receipts and let the silence breathe like an open wound. That afternoon, I worked through what little I'd salvaged from the lawn. Lena had cleared a shelf, my books filled it only halfway, but they were lined neatly, as if order itself could be armor. The folded clothes went into a drawer. The dented monitor sat beside the desk, its bent frame catching the light like a scar. Then I took a pen. I hadn't written in years, but I opened a fresh notebook and wrote one line. They started listening the moment I stopped talking. It came easily after that, not fury, not melodrama, just clean, surgical notes. What had lived in their eyes? What had never lived in their hearts? The illusions I'd once called safety. The truths I would never unsee. When I shut the notebook, the phone was still humming with notifications. Noelle's chipper voice notes. Griffin's syrupy guilt trips. Dad's clipped commands. I turned the device face down and let it buzz itself to exhaustion. They had always been loud. My quiet was louder now. 2 days later, Dorsey called. His tone was steady, but every word landed like a gavel. We finished tracing the rental income, he said. I already knew it would be bad. How much? Your parents and brother have been collecting from both the lake cabin and the commercial building. 3 years. Just over $50,000. Your share was never acknowledged. Acknowledged, as if this were a forgotten receipt in a shoebox. We both knew better. By nightfall, certified letters were on their lawyer's desk, itemizing every cent owed and every percentage I owned. Dorsey had also contacted the banks attached to the commercial property loans. If those deals went through without my signature, the lenders had walked into their own trap. The next stretch of silence had a different texture, no shock, no hurt. Calculation. 3 days later, Griffin surfaced. It was a quiet Tuesday. I'd just clocked out for lunch and was cutting across the back lot when I saw him propped against my car, phone in hand. I didn't alter my pace. Elizabeth, he called, too casual. Got a second? The keys bit into my palm as I tightened my grip. He moved into my path. We need to talk. I met his eyes without blinking. You're trespassing. Step aside. His voice dropped, low and sharp. You're breaking this family over a technicality. That money wasn't yours. You want to play the lawyer game? Go ahead. But you won't like the ending. Move. Now. 2 coworkers exited the building, one calling my name. Griffin glanced over, then stepped back, muttering under his breath. I won't ask again, I told him, pulling out my phone. This is harassment. Leave before security does it for you. By the time security met me at the door, he was gone. I filed the incident report, attached the parking lot camera footage, and sent it to Dorsey. His reply was quick, noted. Logged. Proceed as planned. They'd made the first move. Now they'd find out what it meant to defend. It was Thursday, just after sunset, when the knock came, hard, impatient. Voices followed, layered over each other. I walked to the door but didn't open it. The security feed on my phone confirmed it. All 4 of them. My mother stood in the hallway gripping a balled-up tissue like it was the only thing keeping her steady. My father's stance was all blockade, arms folded, jaw like concrete. Griffin leaned on the wall, wearing an expression that said this whole scene was beneath him. Noelle hovered near the corner, splitting her attention between me and whatever was glowing on her phone screen. Elizabeth, my mother's voice wavered. Please. We just want to talk. It's gotten out of hand. Dad took a step forward, voice snapping like a command. Open the door. Stop acting like a child. Griffin muttered something under his breath. Noelle didn't even glance up. I waited, saying nothing. Let the silence work on them. Let it stick. Another knock, louder this time. We're your family, Dad barked. You can't lock us out over some papers. I spoke evenly, making sure the words carried for the mic. All communication goes through Mr. Dorsey. You've been told. They hadn't expected me to respond at all. There was a beat of stillness. Mom's tone thinned. You don't have to do this. We can fix it, just us. The videos will come down. We'll make it right. From the feed, I saw Noelle glance down, slide her phone behind her back. She wasn't here to repair anything. She was here to document it. I'm not speaking without legal representation, I said. If you stay, I'll call building security. Dad's face shadowed over. So now you hide behind lawyers? You told me I wasn't your daughter, remember? Griffin stared at the floor. Noelle was already typing. Mom dabbed at her eyes, but there was nothing left in her voice. They lingered a minute, then left without another word. I locked the deadbolt, opened my laptop. A new email from Dorsey sat waiting: settlement draft, initial review. 2 days later, their attorney sent the offer: full ownership of the lake cabin, if I gave up any claim to back rent or future profits from the commercial property. Dorsey's reply was immediate: rejected. Original terms stand. The cabin wasn't worth a third of what they owed me. They wanted me to trade justice for a trinket. I wasn't interested in symbols, I wanted their acknowledgement in ink. The next morning, I sat across from Dorsey and listed my terms: a written admission of financial misrepresentation, a payment plan for the unpaid rent, and a neutral property manager to control all future income. In writing, I said. All 4 signatures. He nodded once. Then that's what we'll demand. While the back and forth dragged on, the fractures widened. Noelle lost more than 5,000 followers in a week. Someone from high school had spotted me in her stream and posted proof of what really happened. Sponsors bailed. The eviction clip vanished from her feed, but the internet doesn't erase. Dad's business started to bleed. A client canceled a contract. A loan application stalled when the trust documents surfaced during review. Mom's messages stopped. Griffin sent a single angry email. Dorsey forwarded it with no comment. Noelle tried calling twice. I let both ring. When their lawyer finally came back, the sharp edges were gone. They agreed: monthly payments, third-party oversight, and a signed acknowledgement from each of them. I read the document twice, then added one line above my signature. Truth isn't betrayal. It's what's left when the performance dies. I sent it back. There was still one last thing they had to do. The apartment was small but untouched by them: 1 bedroom, crooked floorboards, a kitchen window that whistled in the wind. The lease was in my name. The rent was paid from my welding job. No shared space. No borrowed time. No cameras at my door. 2 days after I moved in, an envelope arrived. Inside, a check for the first installment of the back rent, paperclipped to a folded note in my mother's handwriting. We hope we can put this behind us and be a family again. Love, Mom. I stared at it, not for what it said, but for how little it meant. No apology. No ownership. Just a hope that I'd forget the price of finally being left alone. I slid the check into the drawer and left the note where it fell. That night, while unpacking the last box, I found my old external drive. I plugged it in, scanning the folders until one caught my eye: Grandpa wave. I clicked. His voice filled the room. Hey, kiddo. If you're hearing this, I'm gone. But listen, you'll be okay. Even if they never say they're sorry. Some people only value you when they can use you. And when you stop letting them, they call it betrayal. Let them. Just keep being you. I sat there a while, letting his voice settle into the quiet. No more shouting. No silence sharpened into a weapon. Just the warmth of someone who meant it, in a place that was finally mine. I saved the file, backed it up, and set the drive in the drawer, beside the check.